Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I am Court Rutnowski, chairman of the Greater Education Council of Connecticut. So we've been doing a series of interviews with people who we believe in Connecticut have various important roles to play with, I'll put it simple, fixing the mess. So today we have Dominic Rapini, and Dominic's story I think is particularly interesting, and I'm even going to say particularly salient. He has traveled many roads in this state in, what should we say, the last 20 years, 15 years?
Well, most of my heavy travel has been since 2017.
Okay, yes.
And since then, I've been to all 169 towns multiple times.
There you go. Well, then that's probably where the story should start.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just asking him a series of questions now and then, but for the most part, he's going to roll. So welcome, Dominic.
Well, Corey, thanks for having me here today.
Yes, you're welcome.
It's a privilege.
Right. Yes, we've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah.
So truth in advertising, also, I've known Dominic for a time. I'd say I did it in 2018, I think.
Yeah, and truth, and you can look it up. You're also a donor. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes, I did?
Yes.
Sure
it was either you or Mrs. Court or
Mrs. Court. Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, that was probably me. So, yeah, where I'd like to start is if you could tell me, where you were born, where you were raised,
Sure.
School, and then work up to the present.
Well, thank you. So I'm a lifelong resident of the state of Connecticut.
Okay.
And proud to be able to say that. I grew up I was born in New Haven, right across from the A.C. Gilbert Toy Company back in the day.
Wow.
1961. And my family moved to Hamden. My father was a tile man, had his own business that he created after he came home from World War II, where he served our country and in Normandy and the European theater. And
was he a part of the D-Day invasion?
No, he was days later. He was artillery.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. They needed to carve out a place for him to set up his 105s.
Yes. Special need.
Yeah, so that's when Dad came in. And he served there along with my Uncle Albert and so much family. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyways, my dad he came home and he met my mother who was visiting up from the South. And they had built a great life for us in Hamden, Connecticut, where I played high school football and track. Mm-hmm. And I was the first member of my family to go to college.
Okay.
And my mom, who she worked a third shift in Pratt & Whitney on airplane engines.
Wow.
She worked hard to help me get into college and go through to college. And I had a great experience at Trinity College, where I studied neuroscience, played football and track.
Oh, you studied neuroscience?
I did. I studied neuroscience.
We could talk.
Yeah, I thought I was going to go to med school, but then while teaching biology and trying to save some money, I bought a Macintosh in 1985. Uh-huh. And months later, I helped that school build a Macintosh computer lab, and I helped build one of the first Macintosh computer labs in education in the country, mm-hmm. if not the world, in 1985.
Yep.
And so 40 years later, here I am in the world of cybersecurity after 30 years at Apple and 32 years of coaching Pop Warner football and raising my family in Hamden. And now a resident in Branford, Connecticut with my wife, Susan. Mm-hmm. We have 5.5 children. Three that my wife gave birth to, and two young brother and sister that joined our family about 12 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
And Amanda's daughter, Leela, is my granddaughter now.
There you
go. And just amazing. I just bought her pancakes today.
All right. So you just passed into the phase of grandpa.
Yeah, that's right. Grandpa. Absolutely. Papa. So I have at Apple, I had a great experience. I developed Apple's. I was part of Apple's team that developed the U.S. retail, mm-hmm. Particularly around the iPod. Tim Cook tapped me on the shoulder, along with my boss Jim Malakut, and we're the ones that expanded all the Apple's retail because of the iPod when that came out. So I helped put iPods in all kinds of brand new retailers like Radio Shack and Toys R Us and BJ's Warehouse and all over and over again. And that was a great experience. So I also helped develop Apple's military retail presence at U.S. military bases worldwide. And I even had, we even had AirPods being sold out of the back of a Humvee in Kandahar The Taliban now has my AirPods, but that's another story.
Too bad they don't know how to use them.
Yeah, no, I think
You think they figured it out?
I think they just have the Quran on autoplay.
Oh, okay.
And so then I also helped develop Apple's presence in U.S. airports. So if you see an Apple product or a Beats product at any one of our 54 airports, that was the kind of business I did for Apple. And I was Apple's top performer twice in those 3 decades. And I delivered over $5 billion in revenue and had just a great time.
So when does Tim Cook ever take the time to thank you?
Listen, he had a lot of people to thank because I worked with some of the most incredible, talented people. Apple was a place to work there. There was no drama in the workplace. Everybody, we would argue, we'd talk about, oh yeah, we should do it this way, that way. And then once we all decided, we just focused on getting the job done. Wow. Which is a mirror image of how the Trump cabinet's working today.
Oh, really?
They argue, they talk about their differences, and you know what? Then they go to work and execute. And that's what I learned at Apple. It's just you exchange great ideas, you give feedback fearlessly.
So the thing is, excuse me, my first reaction is leadership dictates the creation of such a culture.
Oh yeah.
So where does that leadership come from?
Well, that leadership started with Steve Jobs, who made Apple into a very flat organization. He got rid of all the presidents and the fiefdoms. He got rid of the engineering special, projects, the what we call pork in government. And he, when I was there, he got rid of half our we were making monitors, printers, and scanners. He got rid of all that. We had a handheld product called the Newton. He got rid of all that. He's flying the layer so that while I was there, I was only 3 away from Steve Jobs. I only talked to him twice. Yeah. And I got 2 emails from him, and my years.
So you're saying this produced very efficient communication.
Very efficient structure. It's very entrepreneurial. Right. No one micromanaged you. You had your quota. You had what you had to do, your goals. But you didn't have to do a report every Friday. None of that. Micromanagement stuff you see in so much of the bloat you see in a lot of business. We had our job. We knew what we had to do, and you went out and got it done. And you got paid well for it. And so I love that about Apple, and I bring in that culture, those ideas into my business now as a CEO.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay. So maybe the next part here is to start with how you got involved in politics.
Yeah. So I think it was 2012. I was not very political, although I voted Republican my whole life. But, for most of my life, I voted Republican. I never really could explain it, why I did it. My first president I voted for was Ronald Reagan, like many of the people I'm sure watching. And, he talked common sense and he was pragmatic and he just looked like a serious guy but he could have fun and tell jokes. And I like that about him. So I've been a Republican my whole life, but never was able to really understand or appreciate why I was a Republican. It wasn't something I did every day. I didn't do anything with politics. First time I started getting a little interest in politics was around the days of the hanging Chad, down in Bush versus Gore. And that was I was very interested in elections. I just started to pique my interest. I was paying attention. And then in 2012, here in Connecticut, they passed this big increase in the income tax, and it was retroactive. So in August of that year of 2012, I got hit with this. Like all of a sudden, my Apple check was getting garnished for the back taxes I owed for the first 8 months of the year. I'm like, okay, I understand a tax increase, but you made it retroactive. I mean, I almost couldn't pay my mortgage there for the August to September of that year. And so there was, I can't remember the circumstances, but there was legislation coming up at that fall. And I signed up to speak. Yep. Oh, I was recruited to speak by some people in the Republican caucus, some people I had known. And they asked me to come in. I talked, and I went there in person wearing a suit. And I said to the Democrats and Republicans, guys, what you did with that tax here, it hurt me. And I work out of my home. I could live anywhere. I could do this job from anywhere in the country. And you make it very hard for me and my family to stay here if you're going to keep these ambushes with us with taxes. I can go to Florida. And what keeps me in Connecticut is my friends, my family, and the pizza. Yes.
Yeah, the pizza.
You know, you can't. You know, the pizza just can't.
Yes.
You can't get that anywhere else. And so I made that appeal, and that's when I started realizing, yeah, this is something people have to get off the sidelines. Then in it was 2017 when I was my mother-in-law was very ill, and her name was Ann Dandro. She was a House Republican for 19 years. She helped craft the American Disabilities Act. She was there for the signing of that act.
Wow.
She was an incredible woman and a great inspiration to me. And you know, she inspired me to run. And I said, okay, I'm going to run against this Chris Murphy guy. And so I did. I built a professional campaign. I raised good money. But then I lost the primary to Matt Corey.
Yes.
I'm like, who entered late and just stole it away from me. But you know what? He was a good guy.
Yes.
And so the first thing I did was I wrote him a check.
There you go. See? All right. That's called being a good sport.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm a team player. You know, my whole life I've coached football for 32 years with young kids, and this is I'm not in this here. You know, listen, if you listen to Ronald Reagan, right? It's like you're not going to speak ill of other Republicans. And Matt has great qualities, and he's running for lieutenant governor now, and I wrote him a check for that, and we're helping him, and so I decided that for me to be able to do this long term, I need to be able to be a participant. So I was later asked to run the GOP Advisory Council with J.R. Romano at the time, and I pulled together 20 different Republicans that included Bob Stefanowski and Jamie Stevenson, some really great and talented people, and we came up with really big ideas on what we would do for the party. Not a great exercise in terms of execution, you know, because I think our ideas were just a little bit too early. You know, there were silly little things like, I don't know, let's rewrite the job descriptions for everybody on a Republican town committee. You know, there should be a person in charge of data. Okay. We should have a job description. There should be a welcome wagon, you know, to invite to meet different Republicans. And some do and some don't.
Oh, you're stepping in an area. I'm working with some other people on this. I'm going to just mention it quickly in passing.
Yeah.
Jason Douglas, who ran against Ben Proto for the chair.
Oh, I remember. I talked to Jason, yeah.
Oh, you did? So, that's right. Did the interview with him,
yeah.
Right? As did Linda. So, all right. Yeah, so you know all about that. Okay.
Yeah, so it was a little discouraging from that perspective, but I certainly raised my visibility with other Republicans. And I delivered for them a different perspective on politics that was more pragmatic and very programmatic. You know, remember one of the things I did at Apple is I had organized hundreds of people that managed, you know, my military bases with me, and in the airport, that are, you know, people that didn't work at Apple, but they were contractors of mine. You know, before I joined Apple, I had large field staffs in national channels, so I'm used to doing things in a very programmatic way. If I'm going to work with 20,000 sales associates at Radio Shack, the only way to touch them is with an infrastructure.
Sure.
So I'm saying we need an infrastructure here in Connecticut. And so I kept putting ideas along those lines.
Language.
Yeah, but it just wasn't. Everyone is the problem with New England or Republicans. I don't know what it is. It's like, well, you know, this is the way we've always done it. Which, by the way, when I was at Apple, if you ever said, if Steve Jobs asked you, why are you doing it this way? And he said, well, you know, Steve, this is the way we've always done it. He would ask you for your badge. You get fired for that. So there's cultural clashes that I'm taking one issue at a time with. And then, but from there, I also started getting very interested in elections. And I became an election moderator. And that was an interesting story because I just signed up to learn about elections. I think this was 2020. And it was during COVID, and I got called to work my first election in Hamden, Connecticut, my hometown.
Okay.
I'm living in Branford. And I showed up at 5:30 in the morning to just to come there. I was going to be the checker, you know.
Right.
And the Republican Register called me up and said, Dom, we just lost a moderator in this other school. Her brother got killed overnight. So can you be a moderator? And I go, what?
Yeah, just like,
I go,
wow.
what? So, you know, I show up at the other precinct. You know, we're wearing masks, which is already infuriating, but you got to do it. And I took over all these, 19, 20 people. And I said, okay, this is just like running a retail store, which I've done.
Well, let me think about that.
So I treated it like a
Customer comes in.
well, you had customer service,
But
you
gotta
had
check.
problems.
Are you on the customer list here?
Yeah. So I went through, and I already studied it ahead of time, so I knew what I was doing, or at least I had an idea what to do.
Yeah.
But in practice, I had to do it, and so I managed that whole day. And one of the things I was having a problem with that day was like, oh my God, I can't read anything. It was like worse than my normal, reading glasses.
Okay.
I found out later that I had ruptured a retina the day before, and I had a detached retina all day long.
Oh my
first day
God.
as a moderator. It was like, what the heck? And so, but I got through the day, and God bless the people I worked with. They were so good. They said, Dominic, I hope you do this again, because you may have been the best moderator we've ever worked, and we've been doing this each for 20 years.
Right.
That's from the Republican Democrat registrar in Hampton. The people in that in that precinct. Right. So it was very encouraging. But I decided, as I studied what happens at the Secretary of State level, I said, at the time we're working with Linda Sikowitz too, by the way, on Fight Voter Fraud 2017, 2016 is where you and I first met.
So the point is you started Fight Voter Fraud with her before you became a moderator.
That's right. It was before that, because I started study. I started talking to registrars and town clerks, and so what great people these are.
Yeah.
God knows we don't pay them enough, but they work so hard and they're invaluable to our election process.
Yes.
And one of the things I learned is one of the things that happened during COVID was the whole this fiat change in absentee ballots, and it came out to everybody. And Denise Merrill wrote she wrote a bill that's it got $7 million of COVID money and completely changed the whole process. So I worked with Linda, and we sued the Secretary of State. $100,000 we put into it. I
remember this. Yes.
And I wrote a big op-ed with King Cuccinelli, formerly of the Trump administration, and Politico, not Politico, the Real Politics.
Okay.
And I exposed how that the $7 million she spent for the actual number of people that actually voted, it came out to $800 a ballot. That was the spend.
Shall we say that's typical?
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
So I remember I had that experience. I had the experience of working with Linda to identify 114 double voters in Connecticut.
Right.
And the SEC investigated said, well, that's all, we debunked that. I go, tell me how you debunked it. Yeah. And they said, well, they're related, they're different names. Okay, but there's 2 votes each. So how do you explain that? And so that was a little disappointing outcome. And then the other thing is, we identified 5,700 people that voted in 2020.
Yeah. Did
not show up as registered to vote until January of 21. And so I'm like,
okay, and
digging into it, and what I realized is that was a hangover from our ridiculous practice of the same day registration, where 20,000 people came in to vote one day that never registered. And what happens is, 5,700 people, they didn't get registered because these part-time registrars couldn't get to doing their application until for another couple months. Now, here's what the takeaway on that. Yeah. The takeaway was, so did they actually vet that they weren't registered to vote somewhere else? Did they actually have the time, the bandwidth to go call by law the registrar in their hometown or their home state and see are they registered to vote elsewhere, per state law? And their guidance from Denise Merrill at the time was, if they call once, they don't call back, then just make them eligible to vote. And I'm like, oh my God. So I just started to accumulate these experiences. I said, this stuff has to change. And with I don't know what the timing was. I think in 21.
Was there an issue with birth dates as well?
Well, there's at least 2,000 people that were born in 1900 or registered to vote in 1900. Okay. Now that's a bad database management hygiene issue where they're just like, okay, well, why are you not fixing this? To me, I'm looking at all the bad data in our voter rolls, and I literally put the entire voter rolls on my computer, and I put them into a 500 Pro database. I'm sorting them, looking at them. I'm like, oh, this is just awful. And oh my God, there's 200,000 people that haven't voted in 6, 7, 8 years. Why are they still on the list? They're these inactive voters. And there was active voters that hadn't voted in 8, 10 years. And so there was a whole to use the word hygiene again. There's no database hygiene. So I look at all this from the prism of of a guy who spends his life analyzing data at Apple as my part of my business, and I said, I could do this.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do this.
Is the title of the article, "The Secretary of State Has Bad Breath"?
No, that would have been halitosis.
Okay. Halitosis, all right.
This was more hallucinations of
right.
data hallucination, and so along the line, I think is spring of 2020. I think I decided then to run in 2022 for Secretary of State, and so I put together a campaign. I brought in some of the key people. I built some tremendous talent that I built into that program. We raised the money and earned a grant, and I defeated out 2 other Republicans, Terry Woods from Darien, who joined late, and felt she was going to. Well, she felt she was going to win.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I went the longtime political operative Brock Weber.
Yeah, that name sounds familiar.
Brock Weber, he's his chief of staff for Aaron Stewart, and longtime Politico. Good kid, just had a baby, and he asked me. In fairness, was I going to run? I said, Brock, I don't know. I just don't. I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
And so he did try to get that courtesy question in, but then he ran and he had a summer raising money. But then I caught up to him right away, and we were neck and neck on raising money. But then when it came time to the primary, he had his machine. He had a machine, but I also had a machine. That led with by Tim Herbst and some other great Republicans who saw the value.
So Tim Herbst was working with you
for the
okay.
conference.
Yeah, I wonder whatever became of him.
No, he's a good man. Let me tell you. No, we're both Trinity guys too, by the way.
Okay.
So Tim Herbst and some other great people like Jeff Rogers and I just have really a great team of people. They attacked the floor that day, and then certainly Brock thought he was going to win. We all think we're going to win, right? That's otherwise you don't do it. But I think they were all a little shocked when I pulled away. I pulled away and opened a gap in the second congressional, where I'd spent a lot of time.
Okay.
And I just won that big, and I won the fourth and the first and the fourth. Brock won the fifth.
Yeah.
But at that point in the first, and he was ahead of me going into the second congressional. As you go around the clock at the
second, I believe, is the biggest district.
And that's the one I spent a lot of time. I had some great people, like the people up in Plainville, Connecticut, K&H people who held fundraisers for me. But that's also a very strong Republican district. And
yes.
It doesn't show it on paper, but on paper it is. So I won that convention and went into we went to the primary. Brock, all three of both my opponents went into the primary, and but Brock had to drop out because of some issues with his fundraising.
Oh,
so God bless him.
The machine was a little defective.
Yeah, there's something there that he had to answer. So he thought better to jump out. It was just me and Terry Woods, and then I won the primary, and then I put together a really strong campaign. But everyone said I ran a great campaign. I was all over Connecticut, put the work in, and did the videos. Stephanie Thomas, who was my opponent, she put up a commercial tying me to January 6th. They had the New York Times write a hit piece on me. So I'm an election denier. I'm like, there's like no statements of me ever denying the election. I just say, but I have questions about that election in 2020. I did have questions. There were a lot of things that didn't add up. They didn't smell right. Starting with the rigging of the way we voted, rigging of the media, the social media, shadow banning. There's a lot of problems with this election.
So how much of that do you include Connecticut?
Which?
With respect to questions about the 2020 election.
So certainly, the biggest problems in Connecticut has to do with absentee ballots, because that is a very nebulous area that never gets audited. The Secretary of State's office will say, "Oh, we audit all the elections. We do a random sample." Yeah, what they do is they run the ballots back through a machine that already counted them, and say, "Yeah, it was within 1%." But what they never do is take the absentee ballots and run them. And run them through. But the problem is, you can run the ballots through all day long, and they're always going to give you the same result.
Correct.
The investigation that never happens is you go back to the origins of where these ballots came from, the people who voted them, like they did in Bridgeport. And sure, I was Linda and I were coming out. I've been on Bridgeport in 2019 in a big way, and we were right. I was right about everything I said about Bridgeport. That was a big central part of my campaign.
That's before we even got to Wanda.
Well, I've developed the talking point, if you will, I think this statement about Connecticut elections is that our legislation needs to do a few things. One, no political operatives should ever be allowed to touch a ballot or a ballot application, even sign them out. The process of you signing out 1,000 ballot applications from the town clerk's office has got to end, right? 5 is fine, for a family member. No candidate can ever handle a ballot, and if and drop boxes have to be, I think, brought into buildings where you have both video surveillance as well as human surveillance. And so certainly we're going to have cameras on them now, but I say just bring them into buildings. It's already you don't have to spend almost any money to do that.
So one question is with respect to the proposed amendment, which I think passed in referendum about the absentee ballot, what we would call the no excuse absentee ballot.
Yeah.
How is that different from a mail-in ballot?
No, it's not. It's
the same.
Yeah. There's no difference.
And supposedly there are some guidelines that discourage the use of mail-in ballots.
Well, there's criteria that allow for the use of absentee ballots,
yes.
right? There used to be 6 criteria. There's none now.
Yeah.
But you had to be a member of the military. You had or if you're out of town on business, if you were an election official, if you had religious complications, or if you're infirm,
right?
Some very very pragmatic stuff, which I thought was great.
Right, for mail-in ballots.
For mail-in ballots, absentee ballots, and with that criteria,
they're gone.
Those are all gone. So now you can vote for any reason.
So now, in my mind, the issue is you need to put them back, because without them, now it's just open
season.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Open season on fraud and abuse.
Yeah. So that genie's not going back in the bottle, right? But here's what you could do. What I just said, prohibit anybody on a campaign or a candidate from ever handling ballots at all and distributing them, take it away, or let alone collecting them. And what they can do instead is they can go out with QR codes and go do them online, and everybody can do that. And so that will require the mass creation of ballots that are outside of our supervision, right? The idea is keep them under supervision. That's the chain of custody can be somewhat protected with that requirement. And then, people will vote for whatever reason.
Chain of custody with QR codes?
It doesn't matter, because the QR code takes you to an online site which you have to verify your credentials to utilize.
All right.
Yeah. So that's that, and you can't do that in the thousands. Fraud. Could you defraud it? 2 or 3 times? Maybe, but
I would take
the juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze.
All right. You would say, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, has any of this been formalized? I mean, the ideas that you're putting forth sound like things that Rob Sampson should be reviewing.
Yeah, Rob Sampson and Gail Master-Sesko, these guys are smart. They know, they try this, they put this out all the time, but it's like a tree falling in the woods. Right. No one hears it.
So is it simply the majority leaders who are the bad apples in this, or bad actors here?
The majority. Right, the majority in Hartford did not let these ideas get into committee, out of committee. They don't vote on them. They don't listen to them. Nothing happens.
Okay.
So it is what it is until we have a change in leadership.
All right. I'll leave it at that for now. Let's shift now to Act Blue.
Oh yeah, yeah. The blue. As Bobby Vinton said, blue on blue.
Yes, right. So you have a story to tell in terms of how you started on that and how that grew.
Yeah. I'm very proud of the work I've done here. This idea germinated in 2017 when I was a pre-primary candidate for U.S. Senate, and I always start with data, and I kept asking myself the question: where does Chris Murphy get all this money?
Yes.
Oh my God, who's giving this money? Where's it coming from?
Good question.
So I downloaded the FEC reports for Murphy in 2017 and put it all into an Excel spreadsheet at the time. And I just started visualizing the data different ways. So one of the things I sorted was by name. Let me see if there's any numerous donors. Well, I would have some people show up hundreds of times, rows and rows of donations.
Okay, so just to reiterate, it's when you start to ask questions about who Chris Murphy's donors were in 2017.
Yeah.
That you started on this journey, if you will.
Yeah.
That then led to, wait a second, there's something wrong with all these donors.
Well, yeah, and let me frame this for the viewers. The Federal Election Commission maintains a record of all donations from every donor. You can search it by candidate, by donor. Mm-hmm. And if you download a Chris Murphy report, you'll get a spreadsheet that shows every donation given to him by year, by donor, mm-hmm. and the dollar amount and the day in which the donation was made.
Right, but sorry, isn't it also true that the FEC salts these lists with fake names?
Well, they do salt with fake names so that candidates can't use them for mailings.
Right.
Right. And then that comes with a big fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they have some landmines in there for you. So when I started sorting by names for Chris Murphy, I would see I came across this one guy who made a donation like 30 times in the month, like 5 times in one day, $3, $5. You know, Chris Murphy was always saying, "Oh, just $5, we want everything." Well, let me tell you, I swear to God, that was when a politician like Chris Murphy says, "Give me your small donation of $3 and $5." That is air cover for what I think is a bigger issue. And I'll get to that.
Right.
I think to me that's a sign of collusion, but that's just I can't prove that, and so it's alleged. But anyways, and then I would see 30 times a month, 3 to 5 times a day, and I would find all these people doing that. I'm like, this is in the world of the internet is the action of an automated bot. All right, today we talk about AI.
Right.
Somebody that's gone and taking this person's using their name and making donations on their behalf. Then I learned that ActBlue doesn't check credit card validation under $200. I'm like, oh, okay. In fact, ActBlue will even allow you to use like an American Express gift card or a Visa gift card, which is illegal because all this is yeah, you can use. They were taking gift cards.
Okay, just an aside here, and I'm sure this question's on the minds of a lot of people in the audience and later. You have obvious wrongdoing. Why have the charges not been brought for obvious wrongdoing?
Well, it's probably helpful to get into this. I mean, let me progress the story a little bit. Yeah. It's a deep story. So I would also sort by everybody who's retired, because your job status is on there. And then I would say how many people who are retired gave the maximum, $2,700. Thousands and thousands of people that were retired plumbers, retired housewives, retired professors were giving the maximum amount. I'm like, I make pretty good money. I don't think I've ever given the maximum amount to anybody. Mm-hmm. It just didn't pass the smell test. But all that happened then. I'm like, okay, I didn't know what to do with it. I just like, okay, I had a lot of work to do at Apple. I had to get back to work, but I tucked that away. And then in a few years back at 22, Peter Berniger in Wisconsin was starting to do some research, and I looked at what he was doing. He was saying, we're looking at ActBlue, we're seeing these fake donors. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
So let me go back in Connecticut and look at it again. So now I just looked at Connecticut overall, federal donors in Connecticut, and I identified 18 donors in Connecticut. The average age was 72 years old, mm-hmm. and they had collectively given like $1.8 million between these 18 people. I'm like, oh my God. Wow. And then I'm looking at, and the number of donations for these people was in the hundreds of thousands. I go, what is going on? So I started sorting them up, and I would go to the home of a school. I would go visit them in person. Right. I'm like, hey, they're in Connecticut. Let me go say hi. And I would go meet, a retired high school teacher in North Haven. Mm-hmm. I said she'd given like $350,000, and I go,
yeah,
and it was like, how 250,000 donations or something. No, it's just a ridiculous number of donations and dollar amounts, and they thought I was a
conspiracy.
No, worse than that.
Job.
They thought I was a grifter. Yeah, they just told me to get out of there. So okay, And I left them a pile of their FEC reports and my card.
Wait, I'm sorry. Who thought you was a grifter?
The donors, the fake donors.
Oh, I see.
They thought I was scamming them. They're the elderly couple. They were.
Too late. You've already been scammed.
Yeah, I was trying to explain that to them. So I would have people sign affidavits, and I had signed affidavits from a Yale College professor, and he was a great one because on his FEC report, when he put down to the employer, Yale was misspelled, Yalze. I go, doctor.
Yes.
I know this is like $75,000. It shows that you gave to 90 different Democrats around the country.
Yes.
You think that was you? He goes, you kidding me? No. And he was a very liberal professor, and he was like in the mid 80s, and he signed the affidavit. Yeah, these are not my donations. I met people all over the place, and I got these affidavits, and I pulled them together, and when William Tong was, and then I went down to Washington, D.C. and presented this to the Republican National Committee. Mm-hmm. And they said, this is very interesting, but the lawyer, who's not there any longer, this guy named Justin, said, yeah, but this is probably just bad data, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Bad data is not, 5 unique donations in a day. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to make some excuse. I said, this stuff is all got a fence around it. It's very safe. It's not. And so then I presented this to congressional staffers, and Ken Cuccinelli brought me in there to the Hill, and their response was, yeah, this is something. They knew something was wrong with this,
yeah,
and they wanted me to go back to other attorney generals and get them to to follow it up. All right, can you help me meet one? I don't know, I don't have a Rolodex of attorney generals. I did put him in. I FedExed the entire brief, a 20-page brief, to William Tong. After he was on the Gary Byron show, and I called in and said, hey, listen, I got this data. I'm going to send you a brief. You want to research it? Oh yeah, this is elderly abuse here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the bottom line, the Act Blue stuff, what it was is there was somebody else's money. This is money laundering. Is through elderly donors who never checked their FEC report. In fact, I bet none of you have checked your FEC reports, and the money was being made in their name to legitimize it, and it was being funneled to Democrats. And there's some Republicans too in that mix, very small number, using WinRed.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And I went to this organization called ERIC down in D.C. They're the ones that they aggregate voter data from around the country, and they've been accused of doing this, that, and the other thing with the data. That was a shell office. I actually got pictures of me in front of their office. It was just a little concierge office, a mailbox. And, I put all this together, and nothing happened. So then the last thing is when Doge came on the scene, I worked with my friend Chris Coyle here in Connecticut, who's another great patriot, RTC chair of East State Central and RTC in Pomfret. And he had gone with me to D.C., but we put together a letter saying, you know what? Doge just found this $50 billion. They can't figure out where it went. And I said, I think I know where it went.
Okay. Yes.
And then that made its rounds in D.C., and it was when the Daily Signal actually wrote about this, and because Trump got wind of this Act Blue stuff, and I'd like to think I contributed to this. And in fact, they talked about how I did.
Well, you did. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, and he wrote an executive order ordering the investigation of Act Blue through from the Department of Justice. And now, since then, most of their leadership has left. The unions are suing Act Blue for all kinds of problems, and they're falling apart.
All right. So just to be clear here, we could date this all back to 2017 when you was doing a little bit of research.
Germination of the idea.
This is weird. And then by what you just said, then you learned that Peter Bernegger was working on the same thing, and that caused you to go back and look at what you were doing again, which led to further revelations. And now you started to work on getting the attention of other people.
Right.
And most significant who was Ken Cuccinelli.
Yep. Right. Former Attorney General of Virginia and the Trump last Trump
administration. So yes, you were having trouble getting traction, but nonetheless, somewhere along the way, President Trump got wind of what was going on with Act Blue, probably through Ken Cuccinelli.
Well, then not so much. Since he supported DeSantis, I don't think they talk much.
Yeah, okay.
But the work that I was doing was being mirrored around the country, and I know my affidavits. I was the only one that got affidavits like from these
Noteworthy.
mule donors.
Yeah, well,
And we heard that was very significant. So
yes.
it all came in from different directions. Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, so you got there first. I mean, are you suggesting that there was almost like a simultaneous?
Well, Peter
awakening?
Bernberger was doing research in Wisconsin.
Okay, so the word that he was putting out then that woke other
James
people
O'Keefe
up. Okay.
did videos of this, and these people say,
Yes, that was the other thing.
In fact, he retweeted my work, James O'Keefe. I met James, and I would get like 900,000 views on what was in Twitter. I'm like, oh my. So I developed a lot of following on it.
Right, and that's one of the few times I've seen James O'Keefe actually take a situation like this and ask other people to get involved.
Right. That's right. Right.
That's right. So this definitely will be a footnote in the history of politics.
That's right.
That's
right. I feel pretty good.
All right. Okay, so that was a key development, and so let's shift now. Let's see how much time we got. About 15 minutes. That's probably good to talk about your startup. So the way I understand it, it's a password-less security system.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
which I have trouble imagining.
So after retiring from Apple, I got kind of pulled into a company called Coralt with a Q, Incorporated. CoraltInc.com is our website. And my good friend Dave Cook, we've known each other for 40 years. He's a serial entrepreneur, a great financial genius. And he was a co-founder along with Michael Corral. They brought me in and said, Dom, we developed this product with, or at least got it this far with Homeland Security investment. So this is a solution that was crafted with DHS, the cybersecurity division. But they got it to a certain point, what's called TR level 7, and 8 being commercialization, which DHS won't fund.
Well, I'm sorry, it was TR?
TR 7. It's a readiness level, technical readiness.
Technical readiness.
Yeah, and so they said, Don, we got this, and we don't have to deal with it. And so I started looking at the 6 patents that we have on it, and I'm like, oh, I could do this. And so what I did is I turned this. I've been working now since October, turning this into a product, and lining it up with Microsoft and redefining how this product goes to market, what it does, and along with my good friend Lisa Payano, who's another Trinity College friend of mine. So we've been working on 9 months to define the product, and where it is today is that we call this the QX509. It's a FIDO PKI authenticator. It's really unique.
FIDO?
FIDO is a FIDO, and that's an industry organization, Fast Identity Online.
Oh, okay.
And the PKI is public key infrastructure, and that's been around since the 70s.
Okay, but all of this is news to the audience.
Yes, right. So one's an industry standard. PKI is kind of already exists in all the networks you're on today.
Okay.
And we take something that's on that network it already holds your identity. It's like with your employee ID number and your birthday, your email, and we bind that into a new certificate that we deposit on a secure device. Your iPhone or your Android, they have these secure areas called secure enclaves or TPM modules. Your Macintosh has a secure enclave, and for example, there's other ways to do this. And then once we do that, your password is eliminated, and you're like, oh, well, how do you log in? Right. And I'm like, well, here's what happens. Now that we have that certificate on your device, then when you want to log in, you'll be prompted to log in now with your QX509. You just use a Touch ID on your Mac or your biometrics on your phone, and then you put in a unique PIN number, right? And all this is stuff that stays on your device. It never goes anywhere, right? And then that sends out what's called a cryptographic key out to a server, which has its own cryptographic key, and these things handshake and let you in. And so people say, well, isn't a PIN number like a password? No, a password is a sequence that is stored on a server and they get compared, right? There is no secrets here that are shared with anybody. There's no password at all. There's no username either, for that matter. And your device, your identity is your device. and you bet the biometrics in that PIN number that only you know, just like your ATM card, that sends it out to the network and lets you in. So we eliminate passwords with this technology. Now we have competitors. It's a lot of stuff going on the market, but we do this in such a way that we're leveraging technology that's already in your network, where our competitors have to create all these proprietary ID things and walls and tokens and back and forth things that are different and complex and cumbersome, but we do it very simply and elegantly, using what's already there, so we can fit into any network. And we're very excited, but we're raising money now to finish off the technical part of this. But we're busy now identifying customers. So next Friday, I'm flying to Africa, and I was at the African Summit in D.C. a week ago. Met heads of states, cabinet members, ambassadors, and Senegal has invited me to come out there and talk about this solution with them. Their whole government runs on this PKI technology.
Now, not to be too weird, but there are 2 points. One is face recognition. I always associate with digital surveillance.
Okay. Yeah. So on your iPhone device where you've trained it on your biometrics, biometrics doesn't leave anywhere. Yeah. It doesn't leave the phone. It stays in what's called the secure enclave. Right. That's why your Apple credit card, for example, or your Apple Pay.
So everything you're talking about is an Apple-based system.
No, Android has a comparable technology. It's called TPM.
Okay.
Right. But I'm giving you the Apple example since that's where I was for a long time.
Right.
And so your biometrics, the beauty of our solution is it's very sovereign, which you should love, because your certificate and your identity, your biometrics and your PIN number never leave your device. Right. They never leave it.
All right.
So they can't be intercepted. They can't be lost in a data breach. So you're not going to find
That's an important point. How can it not be lost in a data breach?
Because there is no central. It's not centralized anywhere. It doesn't exist anywhere but on your device.
In a weird way, this has some kind of relationship to blockchain technology.
Blockchain would be different. Blockchain creates an immutable record, for data,
and it's distributed.
Right. It's encrypted and hard to break. Yeah, it's all that.
So this is not distributed.
No, it's decentralized identities. So the device is your identity, sovereign. And so this is, everything I just explained is for you to use at if you're working at Yale New Haven Hospital, or if you're working at a bank, right? This is enterprise solutions right now. Now we'll eventually go consumer with it, but right now we have to work with the enterprise level, the hospitals, where we think it's going to be very important.
Sure.
Because there's other things we do that helps with HIPAA compliance and taking your authentication part of everything that happens on the network, so everybody knows who you are. We call that non-reputable. In other words, no one can argue.
So what happens when I drop my identity into the toilet?
Well, then you have to go. It would be just like you have forgetting your password, and you have to go. We'd have to re-onboard you.
I see. Okay.
Now, what's nice about our solution that our competitors don't do, you can also create a backup device, right? Like your computer could be your identity. If it's the right one, it's holding up. Or there's biometric thumb drives that can be used.
Okay.
There's biometric smart cards that can be used. There's a lot of things. Okay. So everyone should probably will have two backup. Right. Otherwise, they have to go back and log in again and create a new device.
So I hear your confidence in terms of the security that these systems provide, and that you're protected against breaches and surveillance
and hackers. We're talking phishing proof.
Yeah.
You cannot lose this even through a phishing attack.
Yeah. I'm one of these people who hears it and you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Okay. I can appreciate it. I can repeat it to somebody else, but I'm not convinced.
That's okay. That's right. You'll have to see it. And you're not the one I have to convince. I have to convince the architects of your networks.
Yes.
And so you just remember this. The hackers out there, they don't break into your network. They log into your network. 87% of all these data breaches, guess what? They happen through
because somebody on the other end.
Because of passwords. Passwords is the root of the ransomware attack at Yale, all these healthcare breaches, the $400 million in ransomware attacks in the United States, all happened because of password loss.
So couldn't there be?
So if we eliminate passwords, we eliminate that threat.
No, so couldn't there, I'm going to put it this way, can there be a challenge, make it a contest, and we're basically running simulations, and, we'll say the red team has passwordless protection, and then the other team has password protection with all kinds of verification and all their other clever ideas, and let the hacking begin.
Oh, yeah. It's called a hackathon.
Yes.
Yeah. So in our roadmap, we will have a hackathon to prove that we're hacker-proof, phishing-proof. And then, but here's what you're going to love with the QX509 is you'll never get you're not going to get a text code. Please verify who you are.
Okay.
Oh my God. You're not going to forget your password.
Not good.
Most people do 3 times a year at their business, which costs millions of dollars to a corporation. They literally spend 5,000 people operation probably spends about $750,000 in password resets.
Right. Now, to bring this around a little bit, then what role could this have in creating a truly secure election system?
Well, what you would want, it would be a pivotal role, because what you would want here in the state of Connecticut is every registrar. I've been in registrar offices where their passwords like on a nope piece of sticky note on their monitor. the EMS password. Oh, geez. So so here in Guilford,
Don't peek.
Gail, I think Gail's your registrar here, and
Numchuck?
yeah, Gail Numchuck.
Yeah.
So Gail would have her device would be verified and onboarded as her identity with the town of Guilford, or excuse me, with the state of Connecticut.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And so every time she goes in to log in her data, right, then she has to use something she has, her device, something she is, right, her biometrics, and something she knows, her PIN number. No hacker can be able to replicate one, if not all three, especially not all three of those things to get in. So everything she does will and every other registrar would only be done by her, and that's a huge security advantage. And that she will not be the source of a data breach. Then Hartford has to do things at their end to make sure the remaining vulnerabilities that they take care of themselves. Firewalls and patches and network patches. Yeah, we're not that. We're just the front door, right? The front door, and we shut it down tight. So it would be an enormous advantage.
Okay, so I mean, in my mind, still, I see that being critical to election security or election integrity. Sure. There are 2 things I wanted to get to. Linda's report,
okay,
on the registrars.
Well, so Linda Sinkowitz, who does great research, she really identified a root problem here in Connecticut is that there's no leadership in Hartford to give the resources our registrars need to do their job. They all have to be registered, and they have to be trained on all the systems. It's mandatory that they do it, but something like 80% of them haven't completed their validation, their certification. And you remember, they're part-time. They're already being exhausted with early voting, which is okay, but it's just a little excessive, right? The amount of the days of early voting, and if you look back in our last election, we really didn't have an increase because of early voting. We just, there was good turnout for a presidential election, but
otherwise,
all we did is we took the pie and we sliced it up differently and moved a lot of the voting into early voting. So everyone says, "Oh, it's a success." Well, it's not a success unless more people vote. Anyways, the question is, that's a big problem, and that needs to be leadership, which comes from funding and directives and coaching and putting systems in place for people to be trained, so they don't have to drive to Yukon to watch a lame PowerPoint presentation. It's just ridiculous. It's just so so old. Literally, the 1990s called, and they want their training back. Their PowerPoints or whatever they're using now. It's just horrific, and it's so old. It's not even old school. It's just like it's just there's no imagination.
It's just one big. This is the way we've always.
I was going to build a online training system for everybody that they could do on their phone for all for my.
Okay.
But there's no one knows how to do that. I knew how to do it.
Okay.
but there's no appetite for it. Everyone just lets things go.
Well, when you say, are you saying in both parties there's no appetite?
No.
Wow.
Well, I think the Republicans have an appetite. They would champion it, but it's just they're fighting other battles.
That's for sure.
Right. They're fighting battles. The Secretary of State needs to drive that, and Stephanie really doesn't have the technical wherewithal to even understand why that's important.
But if I was going to write a book on what I'll call anti-leadership, chapter 1 would be Stephanie Thomas.
Well, guys, sometimes leadership means you have to have an imagination, right? You have to imagine.
That's a good point.
What a solution is going to look like. What I've developed at Apple and my whole career, and what I bring to Coralt is I imagine what it would be like to eliminate passwords. Mm-hmm. I have a mission of eliminating passwords throughout the continent of Africa. I'm going there. I'm going there in a week.
Yeah.
I'm going to Senegal. I'm going to Nigeria, and I'm there on a mission to eliminate passwords. I'm going to eliminate passwords in our U.S. hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
I'll eliminate passwords. All I need is enough funding to get this thing over the board.
Right.
And if you go to CoraltInc.com, you sign up as an investor, and
you can spell it out again.
Yeah, Coralt, QUERALTINC.com. Coralt Inc. You also can find Dominic Rapini on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that should be easy to remember.
Yeah, just go Dominic Rapini on LinkedIn if you're so inclined.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the one other hot issue here, actually the two related hot issues. I'm still a fan of paper ballots.
Oh, me too.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, which then touches on the issue.
If France could do it, we could do it.
Exactly, and Canada too. And
I actually didn't know that about Canada.
Yeah.
And by the way, all those countries, they don't even allow absentee ballots.
They don't allow absentee ballots.
Us in Germany, United States and Germany are like the only countries in the world that use mail-in ballots.
Wow. Okay, whatever that pretends. Well, we know we can see the abuse. But the other hot item here is themselves, the machines. So this debate goes on, and just to opinionate myself, I think that there's clearly something wrong with those machines, and the truth needs to come out. And for that, I need to bring up the name Tina Peters. I don't know if you're familiar with her case.
I know Tina Peters of Colorado. She's in prison.
Yep.
For speaking her truth.
Yes.
Whether you agree with her or not, she. I think she's specifically in prison for violating a non-compete or an NDA or some privacy issue. Whatever it is, she means well. So I'll just talk about Connecticut. So because Colorado is 100% mail-in ballots, and they actually mail your ballots out to you. Big problem for me.
Bad.
And by the way, their rate of their voter turnout or voter participation rate is no better there than Georgia.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, what are you doing? You just introduce more uncertainty, right? And but here in the U.S., here in Connecticut, our tabulators that we've been using, they're not much smarter than a microwave.
Okay.
There's nothing. That's not our problem. All right, our problem is mail-in ballots.
For me, the question has not been answered.
Well,
where? All right, I need to know with 100% certainty that there are no wireless modems or other wireless communication devices inside those tabulators.
I use wireless. I brought in wireless sniffers in.
Yes.
There's nothing there.
Okay.
Go right to the machine. There's no. I open up the box. Listen, I open up the box. There's a modem port. There's nothing. There's no modem in these things, and it doesn't matter. Even if there was, because we do have a paper-based ballot system.
Yes.
You can disprove any differential by looking at the physical ballots.
Actually counting them. Yes.
Yeah, and so every Republican town in Connecticut can at least.
But I do need to bring up Bridgeport 2010.
Yeah.
The second recount, 5% off.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
All right. So is that the machines, or is that because they had bags of ballots that were soaked in the rain?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
okay, but this question about this divergence in their final count comes back to the actual process of counting. You would have had observers. You would have had people sitting at the tables, and you still come up with a 5% divergence.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the machines though. Because you just said it right there.
Count ballots.
They went and count the paper ballots, and they were off by 5%. All right, these tabulators can be off a little bit too.
Yeah.
And the other where the machine could be off is in the programming of the card, which comes out of Yukon, right? That's where an algorithm could be inserted, and that's why when you do the checks,
Yes.
you should be able to level that off on a check.
So any idea? Well, just to mention it, I saw this one.
Now these new machines, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't say anything about these new machines. I haven't seen them. I don't even know the brand yet.
Are you talking about new machines that are going to be used in Connecticut?
Yeah,
Okay. And who's the manufacturer?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because I've asked several times respectfully
Yes.
to get the information and specs on the machine. Nothing. I get nothing
Yes.
from the office.
But do we know the name of the company?
I don't know.
Okay. Because there's this.
I've been a little
funny
bit too busy.
As you're well aware, there's this funny little thing. It's called patents, and these companies want to protect their property. You got two choices: trade secrets or patents.
Right.
Taking your chances with those trade secrets, buddy. Especially when you're talking about software. So I would say if you find out the name of the company and the owners and the other names around it, and then start doing a patent search, then you get it.
Well, I think the registrars they're all getting trained on it now, so you can just call a registrar and get it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to know more about the machine. They're seeing machines in different places, tests and pilots. So if I had the time and energy, I wasn't chasing investors. I would
Yes.
I would spend some time on it.
Chasing investors can be an exhausting
Oh,
job.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Who, me? No, wrong number.
No, they're good. They love what we're doing. But it's a process.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So focus on absentee ballots and how they get distributed. Right.
Yes.
That's where you can make the most impact.
All right. In terms of, when you say impact, it's going to be finding examples of wrongdoing.
Right. You need to I think Connecticut needs to audit the absentee ballots. Everyone who got a ballot, they need to do spot checks on every fit person number,
Okay, but the
25th person or 50th voter.
So the rules for spot checking would have to involve what? Making sure that the person who signed it is the
right
person.
You need to contact the name on the ballot and ask them, did you cast a vote by absentee?
So they're canvassing.
Yeah, you got to canvass.
Okay.
Out of 1.7 million votes, you would got to canvass 5,000 people.
Okay. Well, if you get
No, I'm sorry. That's total votes. So you got to canvass 80,000 people that voted by absentee.
Uh-huh.
Right? You should
So
still do about
5%.
at least 3% or 4,000.
Okay.
Get a significant number. Okay. And I'm not talking about attempts. You got to actually talk to, 2,000 to 3,000 people and get responses.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, but you don't do it every year.
But, I mean, even if it was a little less ambitious, and after talking to a couple hundred people, we began to see that there was a pattern here that was suspicious.
Yeah. Well, and then you'll tweak. So listen, first of all, you can know exactly who voted by absentee from the voter rolls. So you generate the list right away.
Right.
And then you can do it. You can programmatically set out to volunteers and say, here's a list of people who voted absentee in your town. Go try to talk to 20 people.
Right. Now, is that kept as a permanent record who voted absentee?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I can go back for decades and see everybody's coded main election early now is a new thing. And then AB.
All right. There you go. All right.
So the data's there.
All right. Well, the one other thing I didn't bring up, illegal aliens on the voter rolls.
Oh, yeah. Well, so we estimate there's 240,000 non-U.S. citizens in this state of Connecticut. Those are illegal aliens.
The 240,000 are all. This would not include, shall we say, foreign expats that are working in Connecticut.
No, illegals. This is a definition of illegal.
Wow, that's double my estimate.
Yeah, no, it's not an estimate because Caldarella. What's the state rep in New Haven? That like Caldella or Caldarella. It's not Kenny Candelaras, but it's Caldarella.
Right.
He used that number in one of his interviews.
Okay.
He knew because he got that from DMV, and then
wait. So you tell me DMV has a handle on how many illegal aliens there are?
Yeah. Yeah. But, I know we can't get it. Somebody should FOIA it, and then the government, and then Carol LeBeau of the Yankee Institute identified that $1.1 billion was spent on illegals in this state.
Okay, so this is all the benefit programs.
Programs and free tuition and whatever thing.
Right.
So the Heritage Foundation has done research on this. On average, they think about 10% of illegals are registered to vote. Now, I've met non-U.S. citizens who have voted in Connecticut.
Yes.
And when you talk to them, they're like, "Oh, I was told I could." They were signed up at these in the cities, right? They were signed up when they did Section 8 housing. They applied. Oh, here's your voter roll. Oh, but I'm not a U.S. No, it's okay. You own a property. You're renting. You have a job. Yeah, you can vote. They're being told that by operatives, and so most of these people, while they're guilty, they're also innocent of intention, right? They're not. Intention is not to break the. They think they're doing the right thing because
the operatives do.
No.
Okay.
No, the
operatives
illegal
are knowingly breaking the law.
the operatives are breaking the law.
Yes.
And giving misinformation, and the victims in this case are the illegals who are signing up to vote and voting, and why they're victims? Because once they do that, they never could become a U.S. citizen ever. In fact, that's how they mostly find out about it. The ones I've talked to said, I went to go become a U.S. citizen, and ICE said that I voted in these elections, and they said I'm not eligible. I committed a felony. So they're victims.
Yes, they are.
So I mean, you listen. I know a lot of people may be hard line, but we have to be pragmatic, right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump wouldn't call these people, criminals for that. He'd call them criminals for getting into the way they got in the country.
Right.
But he would also see them as victims, right? Because he's very transactional, as am I, very pragmatic, and the real criminals are these operatives that cause them to do this. But Heritage Foundation believes about 10% of non-U.S. citizens are registered to vote. And so if you believe that number, that means about 25,000 on our voter rolls that we just don't know unless we go look.
So has Connecticut Inside Investigators looked at this at all?
I talked to them about this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what their disposition on the research.
I see.
They've spent a lot of time on my Act Blue research. I don't know if they've done this. I think the way to do it, quite frankly, you would take all the voter rolls, all 2.4 million people on our voter rolls,
right?
And I would just set up a cross index with the DHS, DHS database and the Social Security database, and look for people who show up as non-citizens. You can do all the data. You can do the research.
Okay.
But I don't have access to those databases. Otherwise, I'd tell you right now.
All right. So there's the DHS database and the Social Security
DHS
database.
is the Alien Confirmation Database, I think it's called.
And we don't have access to that.
We don't know. No.
Who does? Law enforcement?
Well, DHS uses that, I think, through law enforcement.
Okay.
Social Security, you have to be a $20,000 a month subscriber.
How about a private investigator?
They would have to get access. They would need to be granted access.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then
you only need it'll take you a day to do it.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So to be clear, so what was the name of the DHS database?
I'll give it to you
later. Sure.
I can give it to you later, but it's the DHS Alien. There's the Alien Confirmation Database.
All right.
And it has citizenship in it. Now your driver's licenses aren't confirmation of citizenship.
Understood.
Because they accept green card holders with your real ID,
right,
which is a big mess by the real ID people.
And with that, we're running over a little bit. That's okay. The other thing, at least originally, I think there was a DO designation for the driver's license.
Yeah, Linda and I testified in Rhode Island when the Republicans were saying, can we put a FN foreign national designation on the database,
right,
on every card? That was shot down, but I made that recommendation here in Connecticut. Just add it for people who are not, foreign national. You want to give them a driver's license? Fine.
And what was the objection?
There's no objection. It's just silence.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they'd never been caught dead to rights.
If you were to press a liberal on that, they'd say, well, that's a violation of their privacy, blah, blah, blah. So,
and driver only is not?
Yeah. Well, driver only can be driver only for other reasons, right? Because you're handicapped or you don't drive or you're blind.
But the purpose of driver,
you're elderly.
It's not intended to be an authentic document for your identity. You just have driver only.
I don't know that. I didn't think that was true. I thought it was still authentic. It's just it's not a driver's license.
But
it's an ID card.
Yeah, but by having driver only, that was a backhanded way of saying this guy is illegal.
I I think there'll be a ton of false negatives.
Okay, really.
It's just by the way, and you asked about voting in our elections. You know, it's the honor system as it is, right? When you go to register to vote, there's one little box that says, I'm a U.S. citizen.
I've seen that box.
You're one checkbox away from committing a felony in this state. Yes. One checkbox.
Yes, and how many times has it been committed?
We don't. It's unknowable.
If you check the box, you can't register.
Yeah, it's unknowable. Yeah, it's a checkbox and a little 4-inch by 3-inch screen at DMV.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just no practical safeguards.
Mm-hmm. So this calls for the mindset that you have introduced at the beginning, talking about being creative and looking at it with a fresh set of eyes.
Right.
In order to come up with a better way of doing it.
Yeah. And, add in a little inspect what you expect.
Yeah. Sure.
Or what did Reagan say? Trust but verify.
Yes, as he said. Well, we need a lot of verifying here.
We got a lot of trust, not a lot of verify.
That's for sure. Okay, well, I think we be at the end of the road on this interview here, Tom. I really appreciate your coming here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And I think a lot of people should be watching this. And I left out the part about, once Matt has edited this, it's going to get posted a lot.
Well, I hope everybody finds it of value. I appreciate the time you're taking here to share some of this story with you. Mm-hmm. People can find me on LinkedIn, Dominic Rapini, or my website is CorralInc.com.
Right.
And I'd love for you to visit, see what we're building at Corral. It's going to be spectacular.
Yeah,
and
certainly get the idea.
And I can use some investors. Anybody who wants to get involved, now's a good time.
Yeah, well, maybe this video could be something of an investment tool. I don't know.
Yeah,
thought maybe. I don't know.